my beautiful Christar family. Let's explore a few different new topics. So, one of the things that I love to do is take some of the different things that we commonly talk about so that we can understand them a little bit more, so that as we go through the different techniques, they have a little bit more depth to them as working with them. So, this particular topic today is going to be understanding the astral body. What is the astral body? What is the astral plane? What is the astral realm? When we talk about the astral realm and all of the things that kind of happen through there, let's dive in a little bit so that we can look at what this is. In particular, as we go through the flame building techniques, some of the key informations, especially with technique number two, is really about astral awakening, the flame of Eros, and the silver sanctum. And it has a lot to do with starting to understand the astral realm. So, one of the things that we are doing as we are building the flame body is we're building our foundation. We are building the energy centers that are really kind of more connected to our Maharic body, or our body that is within the 12 tree grid of life. So, dimensions 1 through 12 is what we're doing. And so as we get to look at this, we're going to look at a few different graphs, and I'm going to read just a couple things so that we have a little bit of a deeper understanding of the astral plane and the astral body. So as you go through these flame building techniques, it gives you a far more in-depth perspective to what you are fortifying, protecting, and where you are gaining your sovereignty back. And as you'll see, the astral plane is one of the most heavily targeted planes within our levels of consciousness as our 12 layers of our body. So it is one of the most important ones for us to actually gain guardianship over, get our sovereignty back in alignment with, fortify the shields and fields within there in order to get our astral plane as cleaned up as possible while we're living in this first harmonic universe. So the first thing I want to just touch in on is a graph here. This is actually a fairly common image through the Keylontic materials that you'll see as far as an image of the body, our chakras, and the layers of our different 12 dimensions of our 12th dimensional tree of life. So we're going to see, as we look right close to the body, we're really looking at the etheric body in red. Then it goes into the emotional body in orange, the mental body in yellow. And then if you look at the layer just beyond the yellow, now we're looking at green. That green band is connected to axitonial line number 4. It is going to be connected to the fourth chakra, and it is very much connected to our astral body. So now as you get a little bit of a perspective in here, you can see that we have a lot of the layers of all the things that kind of just drive us a bit crazy in this reality until we start to figure things out is our emotions. It's our mental plane. And then we can see that all the outer levels basically are the fields which play upon the fields below them. So 12 is going to influence 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's just say 6 is going to influence 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, so on and so forth. So we know that the fourth harmonic universe being in the fourth dimension, which is the astral plane here in green, is going to directly influence and affect as a very close layer next to our mental body. So it directly affects the thoughts we are having, and then our emotional body, it directly affects the emotions we are feeling within. So as we move over to the flame body techniques, there are 20 techniques. They're not all long techniques. Some of them are very simple and quick. But we're going to see that as we move into this energy, we're very quickly working with the Akasha seal activation. So within that, that is very important because as we start to work with this, this is expediting and amplifying and reinforcing all the other energy systems that we are working with. That basically all of these techniques are going to be helping to open our natural crystal seals. They help to protect us from disharmonic energies associated with channeling, energy healing, astral projection. And they also help to create morphogenetic repatterning, so helping to reset our morphogenetic patterns, to clear karmic miasma imprints, and otherwise that otherwise might block our DNA activation. So it's very, very important. Now, as we move past this, the Akasha Quick Seal activation is available for you to already listen to that meditation and activation within the course materials. So now, as we now look at expediting interdimensional mobility, understanding the astral body. So as we start to move into technique two is all about astral awake, aware, and able. So as we look within these energies, we want to make sure that we're able to work with all of these frequencies in such a way that they not only are amplifying our energies, but we also kind of want to know what we're what we're working with, right? It helps. So it says right here, the astral body is the natural electromagnetic density one trion Meiji rayon field radial body imprint of the density one physical body, into which the D3 mental body awareness passes in order to explore beyond its physical space-time location, through which is called astral projection. So if we were to look back at this graph and this image, again, we are here within this physical body. We have the ability for our etheric body, our emotions, and our mental body. What we're doing is we're opening up all of our chambers of communication so that we start to have conscious awareness of our spheres of consciousness that exist in the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, and 11th dimensions, so that we would actually become an entire whole 12 tree being within this incarnational experience and be able to tap into all levels of our awareness. Well, the D4 plane is where there has been seals and implants placed within. So it's very hard for our mind to have any concept of anything other than the matrix that we live in here in this physical 3D reality, which is dimensions 1, 2, and 3. The astral plane becomes a barrier, a very highly targeted and diverse barrier between the third dimensional level of consciousness and us starting to tap into our soul consciousness, oversoul consciousness, Christ avatar God self consciousness. And so the astral plane is where primarily the archons, the entities, the phantom beings, the spirits, and all of these things exist within there, creating it to be quite a very toxic environment, honestly, for us to move through. So when we do our work, we primarily want to project our consciousness, and we actually project it down into the 13th chakra, to the crystalline core of the earth. If we do that, now we're at the 13th dimension, and it's much easier for us to bypass the astral plane completely in order for us to begin to attune to levels of consciousness that are not targeted by this astral plane, but it is still part of our body system. So we want to clear it up, because whether or not we hang out there consciously, we want to recognize it still influence every aspect of us. So within here we have this level right here, and we want to bypass it. I'm going to give you a little bit of a different perspective through this bypassing, and that is that the fourth layer is actually very connected to the Van Allen belt. It is more like a magnetic type of field that creates a reverse polarity within there. And our mind very much operates off of these types of physics. So when our mind hits that layer in our atmosphere, it cannot get past it. It bounces back and stays remaining within this 3D reality of this matrix that we say that we live within, or this holographic reality. So let's read a little bit more now that we kind of touched into that. So within this, it says the astral body electromagnetic replica imprint of the 3D density 1 body forms in the primal life force currents of the eros. Think of eros a bit like a flame. So it has life force currents connecting to it to dimensions 7 and 8. and also connected to the Ire, which is connected to D10 in the Meiji field, and the Mane, which is connected to D11 in the Tryon field. Now, please don't get too caught up on all of the words, but these are just talking about different planes of existence. Again, if we were to go back to this field, we would recognize that as we move through the different harmonic universes, we're working with different types of physics within there. So as we kind of past these bands, um, we're going to find that, and the bands, if you could, it's a little hard to see, but you can see there are black lines in between each of them. And in some of them, the black line is a bit more defined. So between 3 and 4, between 6 and 7, between 9 and 10. So these are the bands that keep the the density planes separated from each other as they move into the next harmonic universes up. So as we're looking at this, what it's really saying here is that as we start to work with the astral, even though it seems like it's the 4D, it has ways in which it interfaces and connects to other harmonic universes. And when it is functioning appropriately, it is actually a great place for us to have connection to these other planes. Again, we just have to realize that it is, since it is such a fluid space of basically imaginal realm, new dream now, like instantaneous, being able to move basically at the speed of thought through the astral plane. Um, you can see why it's such a heavily targeted place. Now, as we look at this, I'm not going to read all of this. I want to just give you the highlights within here. And again, recognizing the ability to astral project develops with progressive activation of DNA strand template 4 and 5, through which the density lock seals that keep the D3 mental body consciousness confined to density and space-time vector start to let go and allow the mind and the ego awareness to start to transverse to other regions of space and time and density. So astral projection is many times referred to as out of body experiences. So she's calling it here out of body, OOB, but most commonly you'll see the acronym OBE in other documents and other forms of such. Most people say OBE. And basically, there is a lot of really powerful techniques for working with out of body and how to project into this field. You can get into the astral field and get out from there through these techniques. And what we want to do is get to a place that we're not afraid of any dimensional aspect of our body, that we can start to freely move through all of them. We can know the terrains, we can know maybe what we might come up against within them, and then begin to claim our Christ mission within each of these planes in order to restore them. So what we're doing is saying it's that this is the first step of the development of the physical body transmigration abilities, such as the physical bilocation and Stargate passage ascension, both of which require full release of the density 1 locks and seals. So locks and seals are not all bad. They are actually a very divinely created aspect of our template in order to release at the appropriate times when we have developed enough ability to manage more energy than the seals will release based upon our activation process. So we know that since 25,500 BC, there was an artificially generated net system. So we did an entire video about the Nibiruan electrostatic or the Nibiruan diotic crystal system. And this was something that was implemented by the Syrian Anunnaki, as well as the Phantom Arcturian system that came in and utilized really advanced technologies to come in. And what they did is they created distortions within the galactic shield of our solar system via the distortion of the solar shield and within the planetary shield and the magnetic fields of Earth, subsequently causing reciprocal mutation and malfunction within the DNA template and chemical DNA of all Earth species. So the net is directly responsible for creating the unnaturally exaggerated duality and polarity of consciousness known as the violence mutation. function within the earth, human, and animal species, and for manifestation of the unnatural structures of the shadow body, the elemental, the figment attachments, and all which inhibit the organic function of the astral body vehicle. The Amareya flame shadow healing technologies are required to safely expedite restoration of the natural human astral body vehicle, DNA template, and Merkaba field function, and to reinstate the natural integrity of the genuine D12 Christos spiritual consciousness. So it's really important to know that at this particular time that these Nibiru and Diotic crystals are being shut down. We have Christos forces that are unplugging them from affecting us. We are having to clear out the mutations from our system. So just because they're getting shut down doesn't mean we don't have the mutations that were already implemented in our DNA. So a lot of this flame body, and as we progress up to plasma body work, is really about us reinstating all of our energy systems again so that we can have a full alignment and full energy function again of all of our systems. Now, within this, it's helpful for us to recognize that they attacked the body of Earth primarily. Yes, there is genetic mutations that has happened to the actual human species of the planet, but it's much easier to control the entire subsets of all the different variations of species on the planet if you can actually distort the actual grids of a planet, because we directly interface with the biology of our planet that we are existing on. So if our planet is thrown out of alignment, it automatically makes all the beings on the planet have distortions within their field and throws them off from their actual Stargate attunement and alignment. And so this is why a lot of the work we do is also planetary work, resetting the different energy systems, the ley lines, resetting the Stargates back as appropriate, and so on and so forth. Because as we move the body of Earth back into her organic crystalline template, then it starts to really affect on a positive way our own physical bodies, and beginning to get rid of a lot of the different things like the shadow body, elemental, the figment attachments, and so on and so forth that are represented within here. So now it talks about out of body episodes, terms that are often used to describe the natural or inorganic experiential phenomena associated with the states of natural projection and astral body travel, or inorganic shadow body travel. So as we're working with this, it's saying, in truth, the consciousness does not leave the physical body in an OBE projection, but rather expands through the body and DNA template into density 1 radial body field, and the projecting body stays tethered to and projects outwardly from density 1 physical, emotional, mental body system through a pale silver blue cord of energy. So within this talks about this energy of this cording or this tethering. We're really projecting our consciousness in so many ways, and learning how to bilocate our energy of focus into other realms, other dimensions, other places. And so a lot of what we're doing is we're learning how to reach these other platforms. It's saying here that there's these lock seals that exist within the Iumbi point, which is a point kind of just below the navel in the physical body template. And it will gently yank the silver cord, drawing the mental body back into the contracted D3 focus to lower frequency. Well, what we're learning how to do is to loosen that up a bit. We want to recognize that a lot of us have a sense of wanting to bilocate and project our awareness, but there's such a strong mental consciousness or awake, aware consciousness in the 3D that it's difficult to disassociate from the physical form, the physical world, the physical body, the physical room that you're in, so on and so forth. This happens a lot for a lot of people wanting to do past life regressions or meditate or do these things. It's like the mental body becomes so busy that it keeps it tethered, tethering the primary energy of our consciousness into the 3D rather than letting it leave the body behind, that the body's here, the body's not going with us. but that we have the ability to kind of hop into other bodies and vehicles that we actually have within the cosmos. So, this is really important. It's also connected to the Bardo or the death transition. The body consciousness knows this and thus draws the D3 mental body back from projection when a certain drop of body frequency is reached. So we have natural systems that try to keep us tethered to the 3D, but then we also have a very strong mental programming many times that keeps us tethered here. And so, again, these practices are about allowing us to learn how to let go. There's also a bit that goes into the near death experience and how that happens. It untethers, but if it's not untethered too long, it can be re-implemented and therefore we come back. So as we now look at astral awakening, the flame of Eros and the silver sanctum, this is activating a density 1 celestite crystal and the Eros flame within us. This one, I love this particular visualization journey and activation within the body because it really starts to give an awareness of how to multitask, kind of like doing Rubik's Cube puzzles with your imagination to begin to sense multiple different places within your consciousness simultaneously within you. So, within this, one of the things that's so important about this, and I'm going to kind of skip down here a little bit further, is the density 1 Eros activation initiates opening the natural silver sanctum neutron window surrounding the density 1 body within the etheric body field, creating kind of like a silver spacesuit, and the minute neutron window within the nucleate core of density 1 atoms, preparing the body for natural Merkabah transmigration through atomic transmutation. So, some of the ways that we start to feel the buzzing in the body, the loud sounds in our ears, like a loud ringing or buzzing sounds. The body, let me reframe the phrase from buzzing to vibrating. So the buzzing can feel like a vibration, like our body is vibrating. It could start to feel as though it's tingling, like it's like got little um, more like tickle pricks everywhere. I don't feel it painful. So not I don't want to say pin pricks, but it definitely feels like these little dancing points all over the body that start to create this awareness to the sensations, primarily starting at the feet. Now, within this, as we start to get comfortable with this, there is a lot of physics things that are going on, and I'm trying to do my best to simplify a lot of the physics within the chelantic materials because it can get so heavy in the thought of all of the physics of what is happening that we're like, okay, well, what does that mean? What am I feeling? Well, in that, we're realizing that we're creating kind of like a silver suit. So this is actually great practice as we're learning how to create Trua body, which is more of our plasma body, which all of these flame body techniques are very powerful and important, but they are still kind of like foundational. At the time that they came out, they were very, very important for the level of development that we were. But we have so many ascension things happening, so many new passageways and gateways opening that there is still an importance for going through these techniques, but remembering that these are kind of like you want to go through them, create them as a foundation so that we can actually start to have this as something that makes all the other techniques that we will build up to far more familiar, easier, faster to work with. So, one of the things that's really neat here is that you can see that these right here, I'm just kind of highlight randomly some stuff here. Before the density lock Vecca seal releases the density 1 Eros activation, it starts to, the Eros activation progressively clears and it transmutes the unnatural Metatronic 4 black hearts of Anubis. So, this is really, really, really important. Now, if you've done the seals and implants clearing, you've already gone through clearing these and awakening the fourth strand of your DNA. So just know that this should flow so much easier if you've already done, especially the clearing of the Metatronic black heart. So it's the black heart of Anubis, of Delphi, of Merlin, and the black dragon, and all of these, as they unlock, they allow the organic living light heart or double diamond heart to start to come online. All of these primarily have different implants in different areas. The first one, the black heart of Anubis, kind of implants in the umbi below the navel. So that's where that one was, but they actually kind of go all the way up through different places in the body. And they are connecting to something that is referred to the flaming blue sword that basically tries to reverse the crystalline core energy of our D13 core of the earth current, the mother arc energy. And so these black hearts were primarily trying to basically encapsulate us in kind of a field of energy that kept us disconnected from the heart of our true mother, and disconnect us through this flaming blue sword, which was also called the blue sword of death, that really started to create a current, the Wiesadak current from that was basically causing our monadic reversals in our DNA strands 1, 2, and 3, and our DNA template. And so 1, 2, and 3, that's our minerals, that's our foundations, that's the base structures of our body. So, in another simple way of saying it, the flaming sword of death, or the blue sword of death, the flaming blue sword, or the blue sword of death, is literally the death timers in our DNA. So the lack of longevity of life that we hold in a human body. So now we're kind of seeing some of this energy. We're going to look at the natural astral body anatomy, and then we're going to tie into something else here. So the astral body, again, is an electromagnetic replica imprint of the three-dimensional density 1 body that forms in the primal life force fields of the eros. So D7 and D5 Eron field, and D10 Meiji field, and D11 Trion field. So it has, again, imprints in each of the densities. And as you connect to this, and also 0D 1213 in the rayon field. So within here, the astral body vehicle activates when the dimensional lock seals start to open up. And as they start to open up, they allow the density 1 and D3 mental body consciousnesses to expand. So once the seals open, we can start to expand our consciousness out. So I'm going to show you just one image, just as a bit of an understanding. This is what the negative alien agendas work with. This is the kind of things within our anatomy in our body that they infiltrate us with in our dreams and in our emotions, our mind, holographic inserts, mind overlays, projections, and primarily infiltrations in our dream time. Is they put these energies and these seals in so that as our astral body kind of projects, it doesn't have the ability to connect all the way into the higher strands because there's these locks within there, or think of them as the Metatronic black hearts that attempt to keep us kind of plugged into a false matrix. You can think of it as kind of like a knockoff or a hijack matrix. So if we were to live in the organic living light matrix, we would be eternal beings. We would not have to consume food in order to survive. We would have full levels of awareness of our consciousness. But they have us plugged into this artificial semi AI. It's like an AI biological interface matrix that basically causes deterioration of the cells at a very timed speed in order for humans to not live long enough for us to really get any of our memories back. And then it has divisions between the levels of our identity, so we don't even have an awareness between our mental body or an emotional body or astral body most of the time. So therefore it makes it easy to separate us into fragments and then manipulate each of the fragments to even kind of drive us crazy or work against ourselves. So let's look at this from the energetic synthesis perspective. So she does not necessarily have something that says astral body, but she refers to, here Lisa Renee refers to the astral plane in the Ascension Glossary, that it is the 4th dimension, and it is referred to as the astral plane or astral dimension of the soul matrix. So it is the base field as the base platform, just like 1D is our base platform for this 3D reality that we're living in. We can recognize that 4D is the base template. that goes into the soul matrix. So, the fourth dimension, a green energy wave spectrum, is a dimension with heart damage, a Nubian black heart, and soul based trauma, which is partially propagated from incredible history of human soul damage upon the planet. These 2D, 4D energy centers are comprised and are a part of every human being's heart chakra complex and pain body, as well as linked to the histories of the planetary heart complex in Giza, Egypt. Upon hijack of these 4D energy centers, false white light, false Christ consciousness grids, aka false ascension, were eventually used here to misguide and control human beings. You can think of that again as the Nibiru and Diodic crystals, the false grids. So the false grids were placed in by these Jehovian crystal systems that were done by these phantom Anunnakis. And these are going to be the different reversals. There's the falcon grid, the phoenix grid, there's the dove grid, a lot of birds, huh? um, there's also a dragon grid, a serpent grid. The golden lion got hijacked. Sorry, I am actually saying that wrong. The white eagle hijacked over the golden eagle. So there was a golden eagle grid that was a Christic grid, and then they overlaid it with the white eagle line as kind of a reversal. So there's a lot of actual Christic lines that were then hijacked and slightly kind of change the codings in it just enough so that it starts to create deterioration rather than health. If you could actually go into an awareness of our body, and if you were to look at amino acids and the different compounds that make up our body, we realize that our body is pretty much made up of base ingredients, base amino acids, base molecular structures in different types of combinations. So, one extra hydrogen molecule into some sort of formula is literally going to completely change the entire ingredient of what that is. We know water is H, one hydrogen, and two O, two oxygen. But if you were to make that 2H2O, now you're having something with much more hydrogen in there. It's going to act completely different, and it will act completely different within our body. That is how they make pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals mimic our natural pharmacy of our earth, and then they create variations within it that will pose as slight assistance in some ways, but actually be deteriorating the body in other ways. So, again, it's these molecular levels of compounds that actually show up like a false white light or even false ascension on all different levels. False ascension really isn't just about our spirituality and our consciousness. It is actually happening to the living templates of our earth, of our body, and all the different layers of us. So, as you can see, the 4D has everything to do with our emotions, our feelings, and so on. The astral is the fourth layer of the soul body. The entire soul body is made of three layers that interact together, and each of these three layers, which is 4, 5, and 6D, correlate to the same reference chakra energy center and is a color wave spectrum and dimension of time and space in the future. So, as we look at the astral plane, the fourth dimension, and which is the first layer of the triad of our soul matrix, we're going to really see that this has so much to do with not only how we can actually get pulled into negative timelines, because it's starting to pull into future. And I wanted to bring this up because within the Ascension Glossary, if you were just to type in the word astral, and let's see if I can make this big, you're going to see, look at some of the words that are referred to with the word astral. There's astral binding, astral bliss, astral bots, astral heart chakra, astral mirrors, mirrors of delusion, astral operators, astral plane, astral rape, astral reconstruction. So, again, there is a lot happening on the astral plane that we may or may not be aware of. And so, the more we start to understand that it is kind of an intermediary field of consciousness, the astral plane is truly a plane of consciousness that is the beginning interface of us starting to move into our soul awareness. Our soul awareness starts to move us into more of our universal family tree of life consciousness. It starts to connect us as spiritual beings, as guardians, as ambassadors. And again, many times, if it is being manipulated by all of these energies that play on the hurt of our heart, the our hurt emotions, the traumas of the past, or any of these things that kind of keep us embedded with these shadow dancers or soul fragments, we will find that we spend our entire lifetime, and many times, many lifetime cycles, just spinning around dealing with trivial karmic things that are just meant to keep us busy so that we don't ever spend the time looking beyond the astral plane, breaking our consciousness past the Van Allen belt of the magnetic field that is really working to keep our mind reverted, so it's only focused on the 3D world of this matrix that we're in. And we'll find that all of that is a way to basically keep us distracted or in amnesia, so that our soul and our energy is consciousness. So our consciousness can constantly get siphoned and fed off of by many of these astral beings and many of these interfering species, races, and interdimensional beings that many times just use creation for their own self serving purposes. So, as we go through these techniques, please know the astral plane, again, is a plane filled with illusion, delusion, mirrors, false holographic inserts. Think of it like running around in dream worlds. Dream worlds shift and change, and most dreams are designed to just keep us entertained for the time that we are asleep. And it's not until we learn to awaken in the dream that we can begin to collapse any of the false projections within the dream. We can catch the manipulations within the dream, and we can begin to set ourselves free through expanding our 12th dimensional consciousness.